G'day and welcome to the beautiful waters of Upper Strangford Lough for the season-ending Frosties Regatta. COVID had an impact on the IRC1 fleet with only 5 boats competing, but racing was as close as ever as everyone chased the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The course for the first 2 races got off to the traditional start between the battery and O, beating up to D, kite run down to M, short work up to R, another kite run to L before the final short beat to the finish. Coming into the final regatta of the year, GTR, Le Basculer and HiJacker have been trading victories on the club regatta scene. It meant that while the fleet was small, it was going to be close racing. A couple minutes ago before the start, GTR pushed both Le Basculer and HiJacker out to the right hand side, which they thought was an advantage due to a large shift to the right. The shift, however, was absolutely massive, meaning that you could lay the top mark from the pin end of the line. GTR was first to break away, heading towards the pin, gaining speed and hitting the line to perfectly punch out ahead of the boats to windward on the way to the first mark up off Deadman's. As GTR approached the top mark, they'd managed to build a lead of approximately 30 to 40 seconds over Le Basculer and HiJacker. They did, however, feel that the shorter distance they sailed should have resulted in a bigger lead. Their speed wasn't quite right, but they couldn't figure it out. With the kite up and running on a 3/4 broad reach down to M, the speed issues continued to be highlighted. Le Basculer, his big masthead kite and the rig well forward, had a significant speed advantage, easily running down over the top of GTR. The issues with the speed wasn't uncovered until they finished the race to reverse when a dead bird, which was stuck on the keel, came out the back of the boat. As they came into the bottom mark, Le Basculer led on the short beat back up to mark R. GTR just slotting ahead of HiJacker on the way in to the mark. Unfortunately for GTR, the tight rounding from the inside running meant that HiJacker got up and on their hip. So as they tacked to head up to mark R, had slipped through in to second place with Le Basculer stretching out in the lead. The speed issues from the bird trapped on the keel continue to plague GTR up the short beat. As they tack onto the port ley line, you'll see HiJacker has stretched out their lead as they arrive on the starboard ley line. But where's Le Basculer, I hear you ask? There they are. They've misjudged the mark and sailed to the wrong one, allowing HiJacker and GTR to slip inside, giving up what had been a certain race victory with their lower handicap. As GTR pulled away round mark R, they decided to set their reaching A sail. It was a borderline decision, probably the right one, but it wasn't tight enough for them to make any gains on HiJacker, who maintained their lead coming in to mark L. Le Basculer had gone for their big running kite and continued to show great pace downwind, significantly making up the ground that they'd lost as they retraced their steps to go around mark R. GTR went for an early drop, with multiple classes using the same course. They had to weave in and out a few of the leading impalas. The beat to the finish was a fairly uneventful one. GTR and HiJacker split taxed, and by the time they converged at Mark O, HiJacker had probably continued to stretch their lead, more than likely due to the speed advantage rather than the course taken. As HiJacker comes across to tack onto the starboard ley line, probably went a little bit further than they needed to, but just tacked in time to cross the line, allowing them to beat Le Basculer by just 2 seconds on corrected time, showing how costly their overlaying of Mark R turned out to be. Race 2 was a carbon copy of Race 1, Le Basculer continuing their fast form without the error to take the lead and win Race 2 by just 12 seconds over GTR that performed much better with the bird cleared from the keel.